There's this moment that happens right before everything clicks into place. You know the one I'm talking about? You've been fighting the same battles for months, maybe years, carrying this weight that feels like it's become part of your DNA. And then something shifts. Not dramatically, not with fireworks, but quietly. Like a door that's been jammed shut finally giving way. You wake up one morning and realize you're not immediately reaching for your phone to check what crisis needs your attention. You're not scanning your mind for everything that could go wrong today. You're just here, breathing, present, and for the first time in a long time, that feels like enough. But here's what nobody tells you about that moment. It doesn't show up because you finally figured everything out. It arrives because you finally stopped trying to control everything. You stopped worrying your way into solutions that were never yours to create in the first place. We've been conditioned to believe that worry is productive, that anxiety is just preparation disguised as responsibility. But what if the very thing you think is protecting you is the thing keeping you stuck? Most people spend their entire lives in a state of low-grade panic about things that haven't happened yet. They're so busy trying to manage imaginary futures that they miss the actual life happening right in front of them. And the cruel irony is that all that worrying doesn't prevent a single bad thing from occurring. It just steals your peace while you wait for those bad things to maybe show up. You've probably noticed this pattern in your own life. The more you worry about something, the bigger it becomes in your mind. The more mental real estate you give to potential problems, the less space you have left for actual solutions. It's like trying to drive while staring into the rearview mirror, convinced that watching what's behind you will somehow keep you safe on the road ahead. But what happens when you stop? When you finally loosen that death grip on outcomes you were never meant to control? Everything you've been pushing against starts to flow. Not because the external circumstances suddenly improve, but because you stop generating resistance where none needed to exist. Think about water. Water doesn't worry about the rocks in its path. It doesn't try to convince the obstacles to move. It simply flows around them, always finding the path of least resistance, always moving forward. And over time, that gentle persistence carves canyons through solid stone. You are that water. You always have been. But somewhere along the way, you convinced yourself you needed to be the rock instead. Solid, braced, immovable. And while you were trying to be the rock, life kept flowing around you, and you wondered why you felt so stuck, so separate from the natural rhythm of things. The shift happens when you remember that you're not meant to carry the weight of every possible outcome. You're not responsible for controlling variables that never belong to you. Your job isn't to worry your way into a perfect life. Your job is to show up for the life you actually have. And something interesting happens in that space. The moment you stop worrying about how things should go, you become available to notice how things actually are going. You start seeing opportunities you couldn't see before. You start hearing your intuition again because it's no longer drowned out by the noise of 1,000 what-ifs. People begin responding to you differently too. Not because you've become careless or detached, but because you're finally calm, present, grounded. But here's the surprising part. Peace feels unfamiliar at first, and unfamiliar feels dangerous. This is the moment when most people sabotage their own breakthrough. Life starts to go well, and the mind panics. It wants to return to the old, familiar chaos. It starts scanning for threats that aren't there, looking for problems to fill the empty space where anxiety used to live. But if you can stay, if you can breathe through that discomfort, something profound happens. You begin to trust your ability to handle whatever comes without rehearsing disasters for months in advance. You realize that most of the things you worried about never happened, and the real challenges that did show up, you handled them with a clarity and resilience your worried mind never gave you credit for. Because worry was never about the future. It was about not trusting yourself in the present. And when you rebuild that trust, your nervous system recalibrates. Where it once defaulted to fight or flight, it now settles into something deeper. You sleep better. You wake up clearer. You start feeling like yourself again. Not the self that was constantly braced for impact, but the self that existed before fear, taught you to anticipate disaster. This version of you makes different choices, not because life changed, but because your awareness did. Because you're no longer choosing from fear, you're choosing from alignment. So here's what I want you to remember. Not as a passing thought, but as something that finally sinks into the parts of you that have been starving for relief. The moment when everything starts to go well isn't some far-off milestone you reach only after becoming the perfect version of yourself. It's not a reward for discipline, achievement, or suffering. It's not waiting for you at the end of some long, punishing road you keep forcing yourself to walk. That moment is available now, in this breath, in this pause, in this quiet shift, happening beneath your frantic thoughts. It lives inside the single decision to stop rehearsing catastrophic outcomes that have never once served you. The moment everything aligns doesn't come from controlling life more tightly. It comes from finally loosening your grip. For so long, you believed that worry made you responsible, that anxiety meant you cared, that constantly scanning for danger was a form of wisdom. But worry never kept you safe. It only kept you exhausted. It kept you small. It kept you trapped in a cycle of preparing for storms that never came, while missing the sunlight that was already on your skin. You don't need a more advanced strategy for managing anxiety. You don't need another guideline, another discipline, another mental maze to run through. What you truly need is the courage, the quiet, unglamorous, revolutionary courage to let go of the illusion that worry was ever protecting you. Because it wasn't. It was only protecting your fear. And the life you've been anxiously working toward, the one you imagine exists beyond some future breakthrough, has been here all along, beneath the noise, beneath the self-doubt, beneath the endless preparation for imaginary disasters. That life has been patiently waiting for you to stop running, stop bracing, stop convincing yourself that peace must be earned through tension. When you finally give yourself permission to stop anticipating disaster, something incredible happens. You begin to feel present again. Not halfway, not through a fog, not while scanning for what might go wrong next. You begin noticing opportunities that were invisible under stress. You start hearing your intuition again, the voice that anxiety smothered for years. Your nervous system softens, your decisions sharpen, your relationships deepen, and slowly, peace stops feeling unfamiliar and starts feeling deserved. So let this be that moment. Not the one you're chasing, the one you're choosing. The moment you exhale, the moment you step out of the cage, the moment you stop living in fear of a life that is already yours to claim. Your life is here, right now, waiting for you to stop surviving it and finally start living it.